Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome. Time for a little Orange Bloods Lives in your live. I'm Jeff. He's Chad. Do us a solid. Like we ask you every time we do a show, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications. Like all those things make us, well, they're the little things that make our day a little bit better. And I know you guys are into that. Jump into the Specs chat, chat it up, get into that. Leave some comments in the comment section. We're talking super blue chips. We're talking about Super Bowl. There's a lot of things that I think hop in and out of. In fact, before we get into the Georgia, get into Texas catching Georgia in a massive, important way.
Yeah,
that I think kind of.
Yeah, you think Kirby Smart gets pissed? You think Kirby Smart gets pissed about Texas questions before? Something else is coming now.
I was having a conversation with a reporter that I've never talked to earlier from that covers Georgia earlier today, Georgia Wire or something like that. He had some questions about the super blue chip deal. And one of the things that I asked him that he didn't answer, but I'm going to have to dig around a little this week on this. Do Georgia people understand the real Texas obsession with them? That there's a little bit of a remember the Alamo thing going on right now with where Texas is very obsessed with Georgia in the way that the 49ers and the Cowboys were kind of obsessed with each other, that it was like, forget everybody else. We have to beat you. Texas has that towards Georgia, except there's no reason for Georgia to feel that way about Texas. Not yet.
Yeah, you got to win, right? It's got to be what do they say about rivalries, right? Both teams have to win for it to be a rivalry.
Yeah, it's Texas and Georgia very much as Texas and Texas Tech right now, or Texas and Rice in the sense that other than, I guess, the Sugar Bowl from the end of the 2018 season, Texas just never taken anything from Georgia that Georgia would want. Texas has won nothing as a program really since that game, right? Because that's following that game is when Georgia begins its run. But there's nothing that Texas has ever done in this modern era of Kirby Smart's program where Texas has ever taken anything from them. And Texas very much feels like Georgia took the conference title away from them a year ago, took the playoffs away from them this year.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia keeps taking things that Texas wants. And, oh, by the way, in addition, conference championships and stuff, they have won a national championship as recent as January 2023. So they're not but we are in a weird place where Georgia's almost had a senior class go through that hasn't won a title. So we're at this weird spot. And, Chad, what's really interesting is that when I started doing the super blue chip rankings 4 or 5 years ago, Alabama and Georgia just looked like programs that nobody was ever going to catch. They were sitting there with almost half of their rosters. Alabama, I can't remember if it was the 2020 season or the 2021 season, had 42 consensus super blue chips, which basically means 1 out of every 2 guys on its roster was a national top 50 prospect at worst-ish.
Yeah.
And you can go back and look at their starting lineups and you can see it. You're just like, Jesus Christ. There's like 7 first-round draft picks on the offense. You know, and it's like, oh, and Alabama played defense too. And you just look at those teams. And I didn't think when I started charting this thing that Texas could ever catch either of those 2 programs. They just operated in a different plane. And what is amazing is that over the course of the last 4 years, 3 years, the gap has been completely removed. And going into 2026 for the first time since Steve Sarkisian has been at Texas, a Georgia-Texas matchup, I think, would see a completely even set of rosters playing against each other. And that is not what has previously existed. You could see in 2024 when Georgia and Texas played that Georgia was still just a little bit better than Texas, all things being equal on the eyeball test. It did kind of look like they had about 2 or 3 more really good players than Texas had. Same thing with Ohio State. When you saw Texas play Ohio State, in the national semifinal, there was a little bit of would have liked to have been healthy in that game. What does it look like if Bond and Golden are both 100%? But you also kind of left that thing going, Ohio State still a couple of players better. And the roster data would support there's a reason why. Here we are. I've done the data. There are no more spring portals. There is no more. The free agency isn't done, but all the good players are gone. The numbers are the numbers unless some guys retire, which apparently happened last year, and I missed one. I gave Georgia credit for a guy that later medically retired, which is frustrating. How am I supposed to keep up with all of that? I gotta get alerts for super blue chips, like medically retiring and stuff, so the numbers can be as up to date and accurate as possible. But it's a fascinating time because Chad, not only has the pack caught Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, but the numbers have now dwindled to the point where I think this is how you can end up with, I don't know about Indiana, but you can come away with a Michigan national championship. You can start coming up to compete against the elite isn't what it once was. It's not taking on a team. It's not taking on the NBA All-Star team. It's taking on a team with a big three. And those teams, it'd be different if it was like, the Eastern Conference All-Star team, they're just going to play in New York this year. They're one of the teams. And it's like, well, there's no salary cap rules? Nope. The 12th guy on the team is an all-star? Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that beat them?
That's one of the fascinating parts of this to me, Catch. The title of this show is that the advantage Georgia had over Texas is gone. But I think it's very important to point out, it's not because Texas did anything. It's not because Texas
they did. They came from the ashes.
Right, but I'm saying right.
You're not wrong. Texas in the last 3 years is hovering in the elite has come back to them as much as anything.
There's a layered discussion about the system, the sport, NIL, money, who's got money, who doesn't. There's a lot of stuff that gets there, but it's one of those things where I would tell Sark, don't worry about how it happened. It happened. It's gone.
And one of the ways it happened this year is it took them going into the portal.
Yes.
Like Texas, more so. This used to be Oregon, which is ironic because Oregon. Do we have the chart?
We do. If you'd like to throw it
up. Let everybody see the new champions because the champ is here, but it's not Georgia, it's not Ohio State, it's not Alabama, it's not Texas. Oregon.
Right. It is
the
Dan Lanning.
Number one team in the country.
Yeah. Last 3 years, kids.
In 2023, Oregon was in single digits.
Wow.
I know it's not reflected because that's just a 3-year window, but in 2024, they went from single digits to 14. And Chad, you'll know you were doing a show with me when I talked a lot about Oregon's making their move.
Yep.
Oregon continues to make their move. You can see they're the little engine that could from 14. I think they were at 9 in 2023 to 14 in 2024 to 18 in 2025. Now they're at 20.
Yeah. And Texas has stayed real consistent right across the board. 19, 20, 19.
Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama, but really Ohio State and Georgia in the last couple of years have just come back to the pack. And one of the things that was stunning to me, and I was asked, look, I don't know that there's a really good – so here's what happened. In Georgia's recruiting class this year, remember there's a lot of conversation about Texas and the number of super blue chips, and it kind of went down. Same thing happened to Georgia. Georgia signed 2 guys in their entire – now, Georgia, the team that in 2024 had more than a third of its roster were players that were essentially national top 50 or better players. They just keep coming back to the pack. In fact, Chad, that 2025 number is wrong. That is not the most updated graphic. Georgia in 2025 should say 21. So in reality, they had a steeper fall from 20. That I got that updated. That the numbers needed to be updated.
Okay.
So
let me.
Georgia wasn't number 1 last year.
You take it
and
down.
You're not using the most recent graphic, but that's okay. It's still important. Put it back up.
Okay.
Because it still tells a story, which is from where they were in 2024 to where they are in 2026 is a pretty significant drop from the 40s to the 30s into the high 20s in 2024, now into the high teens in 2026. This is not the Georgia that dominated college football for a half decade. It's not. It's not the same Alabama. I think, honestly, one of the things that Kirby Smart, and look, this isn't even about Texas. It's a new day and age for Georgia. They've now got to win a national championship where they don't have overwhelming talent advantages. That is not who they are anymore. And what was really curious is they signed two high school, Chad, you can break it down. They signed two high school consensus super blue chips, two. And one of them made it in by the hair on his chinny chin chin. I think he was the last guy to qualify in two sets of rankings, which he qualifies, but it was barely. In fact, I almost missed it. They didn't sign a single top 50 portal guy. So think about what Georgia just did. They went an entire high school and portal cycle where Georgia only signs two guys who would register as elite of the elite prospects, either in high school or through the portal. Let me put that in perspective. That's what we've come to expect Oklahoma to do. Now, I've asked Georgia people, Chad, why? What happened? What's the perception?
Right.
You want to know what my opinion is?
Sure.
I think they're screwed because they don't know. There's a little bit of, they had a recent recruiting class in 2024 and 2025 come in, and sounds like there was a culture rift to some degree, that it hasn't been as simple as, hey, they just keep handing it off from one group to the next. There's been a little bit of, the program's been trying to find itself. There's been a little bit of recruiting rankings were a little bit curious. It signed one guy that was a 5-star in one set of rankings, but then not in another. You know what they call that, Chad? Not consensus.
Not a consensus at that point.
Not consensus.
Yeah.
And so they dipped. They had some extenuating circumstances, which as a man and a husband, I totally appreciate, right? Jeff, why did you get into trouble with your wife? Oh, I did this and I had no idea that doing that would even get me in trouble. And then boom, there you go, right? And then some of it is they don't know. They, unlike Texas, they addressed needs in the portal, but you know what they didn't do? They didn't splash cash. Like, really. They didn't go after one guy that they had to really bend over backwards from a financial standpoint to get. But they also
like a 5-star quarterback.
Well, then there's that. And then that was also a big deal, like losing him. And look, this Georgia of 4 years ago, what we're talking about, when Georgia was Georgia, when Georgia was the team that Texas needed to dethrone, and Texas still thinks that Georgia is. I would tell Texas, don't get too focused on Georgia. There's no guarantee that Texas is going to play Georgia in the next couple of years. There's no guarantee that Georgia's the team that Texas is going to have to beat. And if they are, it's not the same Georgia. Georgia keeps coming back. Texas is doing the thing right now that A&M struggled with. I think one of the other real stories, and maybe we'll explore this before the week is over, is Texas A&M just a couple of years ago was where Oregon was.
Mm-hmm.
And after that number one recruiting class in 2022, there was a real sense of Texas A&M might be the new Georgia or the new Alabama from an acquiring talent standpoint. Jimbo leaves. There's the mass exodus where A&M just bled out so many guys. We've talked about them at length, right? I mean, the Walter Nolans of the world that Texas A&M was able to pull in, they've just lost. They weren't able to keep all those guys. New coach comes in. There's a changeover. All of that stuff happens. A&M's not been able to get back to those Jimbo at his heights talent acquiring standpoint. And Chad, put it back up. that graphic back up for a little bit, just real quick, because I think this is something that we'll explore a little bit later. But you can see while Georgia and Ohio State have come back to the pack a little bit, if you look in 2024 where A&M was at 6, the year before that they were number 4. They were right at 20. So from 2023 until 2026, they've gone from 20 and oh my God, are they the team that's going to replace Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama? And now they're in single digits. Meanwhile, Oklahoma, and I feel like if you've watched Texas and Oklahoma play the last few years, in 3 of the last 4 years in the OU game and the last 2 years with the Texas A&M game, to me, you can watch those two teams play, Chad. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. You can watch those two teams play, and to me, there's still Texas is more talented, those two teams. You can still visually see what it looks like to have a 2-to-1 advantage in super blue chips on your roster. It still looks a certain kind of way.
I think you're right. Yeah, especially in Dallas, but I agree with both of those games.
And not by super wide margins in the A&M game, right? But in both of those games, when those games were over in each of the last 2 years, it's been like, okay, well, the better team won that game. And it's like, well, how many times would they win if they played 10 times? It's like, well, I don't know, but one team's definitely better than the other, whatever that translates to.
Yep.
I think what's concerning is if you're A&M, how do you get back that traction that you're losing? And if you're Oklahoma, how do you get back on the board? And I think if you're Georgia, you need to be concerned with your numbers match the Oklahoma numbers from this year, and Oklahoma's not on the list. I know that's a lot to unpack, but everybody in the country, Chad, is other than Oregon, right? Oregon right now is feeling really good about like where they're going. Mm-hmm. This new era of the sport is so complicated. It's so different. You can change your lot in life in the blink of an eye. I can't stress it enough. Oregon was in single digits. This, to me, the idea, if you told me 2024, when they first used the portal really to their advantage, I think in 2024, they signed 5 guys from the portal who were super blue chip portal prospects. And they were the first team that I looked at and went, wow, they just cheated their way into the high upper middle class. They're not Georgia, Ohio State. They're not even Texas yet. But they put themselves in the Big 5. For the last few years, we've talked about Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon. Those are the Big 5. The Oregon and Texas to a certain degree too, right? Texas did it really quick. Texas and Oregon did it in rapid fire fashion because Texas hasn't been making great gains upwards in the last couple of years. They've maintained essentially what they've been able to do starting as early as 2024. I don't think there's space for much more. I don't know that we're going to see.
You're saying for anybody?
For anybody.
Right. We may never get back to a 25 for somebody.
You just said the number out loud in my head that like Oregon, and I didn't make a graphic for this. I'm going to save it. This will be like a follow-up into some content that I probably do later in the month. The transfer rate amongst super blue chips matters a lot. This is where this would have killed A&M's super blue chip transfer rate. I think is 47%. I'm not looking at it right now.
Wow. But is that across the time we were just looking at?
Or from 2022 through this most recent.
Gotcha. Okay.
Of everybody that they've signed of that status
4 or 5
in the last 4 recruiting classes. And that includes the most recent one, which hasn't even been on campus. Might be even more dire if we were including 2021, just because there had been so much turnover. So in a way, A&M was able to cut some of the fat from everything that just happened from a departure standpoint in the last couple of years. But they were at 44% last year. So they're living where 1 out of every 2 that they sign is leaving before the transfer, before their time is up.
Yeah.
Texas, if I remember the numbers correctly, I think is at 17%, which is significantly better than 40-something%, right?
Right.
Oregon's at 6-point-something%.
Wow, that's a good number.
So if they had to deal with anything remotely, like I think Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama are all, and A&M are all in the more than 35%. If you're dealing with that kind of departure percentage, it's going to be impossible to get above. Oregon's at 20 because they have the lowest. That really is the secret right now to how they're number one. They have the lowest departure percentage of any program in the country that I can find, other than.
And you said that's portal departures, right?
Guys that just transfer.
Right. So, okay. Guys that leave.
If the guy got hurt and couldn't play football any longer, that does not include guys that declare for the NFL draft early.
Gotcha. But yeah, anybody that showed up, whether you showed up the high school route or showed up in the portal, it's just that you left.
Yeah. And look, it's rare where you could have a transfer portal super blue chip depart as a super blue chip. But we saw it with Eric Singleton, right? He was a super blue chip addition for Auburn last year as one of the top portal prospects in the country. Didn't have a good year at Auburn, portaled out. So he would count, he would count as one of those departure numbers. So, but it's mostly related to high school players.
Yeah. All right. We got a super chat we will get to. Let me pay a bill here before we do that. Thank you guys for jumping in. If you want to throw us a super chat, shout out to Specs, of course, for bringing us the chats and the super chats. Also, shout out to our great partners like Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Hopefully you are sleeping well, you're feeling well, you're not dealing with allergy stuff, and you don't snore like crazy. But if you got that stuff going on, Sinus and Snoring Specialists can help you out. Make sure you mention Orange Bloods Live. Tell them you heard about it right here. They are the top of the business in what they do. Dr. Slaughter and his crew do great work. They've added another doctor in the last year, so more appointment times, more morning appointments if you need them, more afternoon appointments if you need them, and they will fix whatever is ailing you, and they'll do it specifically for you. They know everybody's path is different, just like mine's different from what my wife experienced. We are both satisfied with Sinus and Snoring Specialists, but it was a different path for each one of us. Check out what they've got for you. 601-0303 or go to sinussnoringent.com. Feel clear, rested, and healthy with Sinus and Snoring Specialists. We hope your February is rolling well as we head towards Valentine's Day this Saturday. Saturday, Valentine's Day. Get your reservations in, fellas, because it's going to be kind of a deal. All right, Kat. So here's the first super chat. It is a little nerdy. I'll warn you. $5 from One More Chance. Team SBC rankings show UT with 19 and 20 in 24 and 25. But in the yearly total since 05, it shows UT with 16 and 18. Why the difference?
Easy to explain. Sorry that it wasn't clear on the graphics. The UT only. Did you get that graphic as well, Chad?
I did, and I was going to ask that same question.
Go ahead and put it up.
This is the UT only graphic they were referring to.
It doesn't say this on the graphic. This is for rivals only. Because there wasn't an on three on three started in 2021 and 24/7 started in 2014. And some of these, there's no historical super blue chip numbers that go that far back because this should just be rivals. Now, in previous years, the rivals number isn't the same as the consensus super blue chip number. This year, just weirdly, they're exactly the same. The group of names isn't the same, but the number is the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, there's your answer. We appreciate you asking. My nerdy eye caught the same thing, and I figured we'd get to it. So there you go.
And it was one of those, it's normally those two graphics don't come out on the same day.
Right.
So there's never like hey, why?
What the hell?
Why are the numbers weird? So, but that's what happened.
It is it's it's a fascinating discussion, Catch, because of all the layers and all the stuff. I was so interested when you said Georgia people are a little baffled. Like a lot of times in college football, it feels simple, right? They'll tell you, oh, this is why we think it is happening. But for a team like Georgia, it's got to be a wild thing to try to figure out, because it is everything. The answer is it is all of it. You know,
they're used to signing 5 times as many elite prospects per year.
And my first question obviously is, well, why can't they? Why can't Georgia? You know, they went back-to-back titles, right? And they did it as NIL was starting, 21 season, 22 season. So why couldn't it just continue, Catch? We know they have money, they have clout, they have the branding, they have Athens.
Well, it sounds like retention. They may have just had last year's Texas 2025 offseason. Because in talking to a Georgia person earlier today, I asked, where'd the money go? Okay, 2 high school elite prospects, and you lost the quarterback. So that's millions of dollars. And
you had the money, but you're saying they might have had to pay too much to keep a team, and then they couldn't get one.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. And again, in Georgia, there's no Jeff Ketchum in their market breaking down the data to such small degrees. This is a conversation that oftentimes you and I have, and nobody else on the planet will often have it. How self-aware is Georgia? And so the question is, how self-aware of Georgia is Georgia of itself to understand what's going on around it? Mm-hmm. And I think they may be trying, it may be happening right now. And some people, if you're a Georgia fan watching this show, this might be the first time anybody's told you this. What do you mean? Wait a minute. We were there and now we're here? Yeah. What the? You know what I mean? That's how I would be reacting if I was a Georgia fan today. And I had never heard that.
Right. Especially since it's not, I mean, you got to wake up still feeling like Georgia to a degree. Did you win the title? No. But are you still right there for the SEC and all the discussions? Hell yeah, you are. You're in the playoff. You're so relevant. It's not like you've fallen off and you won 5 games. That has to add to the frustration too.
And they didn't put their foot on the gas the way other teams who've gotten close. Ohio State, right? They said going into last season, and it didn't always look like they were going to get to the finish line, but they had the most expensive roster in college football. Right. I think that's going to be Texas in 2026 by a lot. I think, man, I hate to say a number out loud. Uh-oh. Well, I said this on the show with Anwar earlier. Look, without getting into the specifics that would make someone do a press conference or something and go, Jeff Ketchum said this. And then it's like, well, he's wrong. He was off by $1 million. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's the spirit of
according to who?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Bowles reported what? It was 40 million?
40 to 45. Is that what it was?
And people kind of got the number that I had heard was between 35 and 40. Right. But no reason to stand on the table. But I will say this, there was no reason for the person who I know would know the number to tell me he could have said, no, that number's, he could have lied to me, but he was like, oh, that's what the number is. And like, I don't think it's a big deal. But I know what the number was a year ago. Texas, I don't think was the number 1 roster in the sport, but I think they were close. They were no less than number 3 in the country last year in spend, which was one of the things that really frustrated Texas. Because the spend was alarmingly high and too much of it wasn't playing, right? So what did they say? Got to recalibrate. We can't ever do that again. We can't ever have a bunch of guys at receiver making a bunch of money but not getting on the field. Like more guarantee on the box, less risk. So we saw Texas strip it down a little bit. I don't think Georgia knows exactly what's happening. And I just saw a headline today where remind me of the quarterback's name at Georgia. I keep wanting to call him Stetson Bennett, but it's the other guy.
Bryson, He just did it to me. What's his name? It's
not gonna work here anymore.
Not gonna work here anymore. Yeah, they're gonna put it in the chat before I get to it. What's his name? Isn't there a B involved?
See, now you've completely screwed my brain up. I was dependent on you.
Gunner Stockton. There it is. Thank y'all. Thank you, Gunner Stockton. I can see his face. I just lost his name.
I'm blaming it on the road products.
Yeah. Thank you, P. Miller. Gunner. Yes. Gunner Stockton.
On the air if I'm going to be completely debilitated by it.
Y'all just forget about the last 20 seconds.
Gunner Stockton. Excuses that I'm aware of.
Gunner Stockton.
I saw a headline today that Gunner Stockton and Georgia had just agreed to a new NIL deal for 2026. And I was like, what? What was he going to do? Like, Gunner, I don't know if you're doing this right, but I don't know that February 9th is the moment to negotiate that. And look, maybe it was as simple as, hey, he's the least of their concerns. He wasn't going to go anywhere. They'll just figure it out later. But I have not heard any other stories today of other schools getting their NIL or their revenue sharing agreement with their starting quarterback handled after. Like that's So I don't know, man. Look, if the rosters are even, what does it come down to? Development, coaching, execution. Those are areas where Texas has struggled when they play Georgia, and Kirby Smart still has the advantage there. If Georgia played Texas tomorrow, it'd still probably be advantage Georgia until Texas can prove that it can.
I was going to say, for me, Catch, there's either going to need to be a clear change in some of what you're talking about, or Georgia's going to have to lose about 4 or 5 more of those guys before I will go advantage Texas.
But the trends would suggest, hey, maybe just sit tight for 2 more years.
But again, we this is part 1. We need to see if part 2's ever going to be there, because the last 3 times they've played them, they ain't football better.
Well, and I think the thing that, Texas is mesmerized by this notion of having to beat Georgia. And the truth of the matter is Georgia may not be the bar anymore. It might be, Georgia's going to be Georgia might win the national championship next year. And they'll do so with one of the top 4 rosters in college football. Top 2, top 3, top 4. We're splitting hairs. It's really, really close. And I doubt, Georgia actually might switch with Oregon, Texas, and Ohio State from a roster standpoint. And why would that be, Chad? Dante Moore, Julian Sain, Arch Manning. Now, it's all even in terms of numbers, but those 3 schools at the top this year, and I think this is the really worrying thing if you're Texas. Crap! You'd like to have had a little bit more of we talked about this all last offseason. Ready or not, Arch, if you can do it now, do it now. Everybody's going to be better at quarterback in 2026.
Yeah.
And I think
absolutely
what that functionally looks like in real time right now is everybody at Oregon's having the same conversation that they're having at Texas.
Yeah.
And the roster's loaded.
Yeah. Hell, Stockton might be better, right? He's not.
He's not going to be worse unless he's
not. Whether you think he's awesome or not, he'll be 1 year better.
And he's better than I don't know that you can win 3 or 4 consecutive playoff games with Gunner Stockton. I don't. But you might. And I was convinced that you couldn't. But I tell you what, man, 2 more years and that guy is a 5th-year senior. His NFL prospects are limited. So he probably, the thing that he'll have to be, Chad, is potentially good enough to make up for the talent gap that maybe Georgia's given up. I'm fascinated. I cannot believe that Georgia emerged from an entire portal and high school talent acquisition. To put that in perspective, let me just pull it up real quick, okay? Because I think that comparing it to what everybody else did is really important so that you get a sense of what I'm saying. So when we talk about Oregon has 4 transfers, 3 of which they signed 2 new guys, and they signed 5 super blue chips in high school recruiting. So they just added 7 in the last month and a half.
Okay.
Go to Ohio State. Ohio State signed 5 national top super blue chip prospects from the high school ranks, none in the portal.
Okay.
Again, Ohio State may be using the Texas plan from a year ago, and it might be they just haven't had a need to feel desperate yet. They just want a natty doing it a certain kind of way, and this is that kind of way.
Okay.
Texas, 3 guys from the portal, 3 guys from the high school ranks, but a total of 6.
Okay.
Georgia, none from the transfer, 2 from the high school ranks. So Texas, and if we go to Alabama, Alabama signed 7.
That is, that's a
high
number.
School super blue chips consensus.
Yeah, that's a number that if you're really listening, that ought to get your attention in Athens. And to your point of earlier, it's a what the hell kind of number. Like, wait a minute, what? How
Texas,
would that?
Alabama 7, Oregon 7, Texas 6, Ohio State 5, Georgia 2. And again, hey man, that is, hey, you know else who? Notre Dame 5 from the high school ranks, USC 6 from the high school ranks, and a transfer, although the transfer was from a year ago. So no, they got 6.
They got 6. Okay.
So you can see,
damn.
Hey, you know how many Tennessee had between the edge and high school?
More than 2?
4.
And twice 2.
And you know what? I bet if you talk to the Tennessee people, I bet like Georgia, there's a guy or two was a super blue chip for one service, but not for 2 others. Like, you know, one of the reasons why I do the consensus super blue chips, Chad, it's not easy. What I try to do is get away from all the 4 stars are the same. They're all the same. Because what that does is you tell a Georgia fan how many 4 and 5 stars did you sign this year? 17. And it's like, okay, well, how many of them were high 4 stars or 5 stars? 2. And it's like, oh, so you signed 2 elite prospects, truly, and then 15 guys with better press agents than 3 stars. Because that's what it is. And I've been trying to tell people for years. They haven't been wanting to listen to me, right? Because it is a little nerdy and wonky. And, why do I got to keep up with this stuff? You know why OU fans? You know what? OU fans more than any other like to go, super blue chip, catch, that's a made-up thing. Well, yeah, I made it up. It's defined. So it is a thing that exists because I created it. And you might go, catch, there ain't no real difference between super blue chips and regular old blue chips. 24/7 just told me our roster is exactly the same as Texas because of the blue chip percentage. And I will say, what's the combined scores of the Texas OU games in 2022, 2023, and 2025? Wait, no, 25, 24, and 22. They lost in 23, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's like a whole bunch to 6 or 9 or something like that. It is, Texas is in the hundreds. Oh, Oklahoma's in the single digits. That is literally the math. And if you're like, super blue chips don't matter, they seem to be mattering in the Cotton Bowl. 3 of the last 4 times these teams have played each other, Texas just played them off the field. And they haven't even always played well. They didn't play great in 2024. They kicked the can around the yard a little bit in 2025. They obliterated their ass in 2022. Let's be clear. 49-0 was all kinds of emphatic. But the last 2 years, they've not played great in those games, and they've still won by 3 scores every time.
Right.
So
34-3 and 23-6, I think were the 2 scores, right?
Yeah. So Oklahoma fans can be like, catch, that's a made-up thing. You made it up. And I will say, you're right. And you know what? It matters. And if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I'm doing the same thing that Georgia fans should be doing today if they see that graphic. Why are we losing ground? Fine. We're not at the Texas level. Texas, catches cooking the books for Texas and inflating the numbers and doing all of that. I ain't doing it for everybody else. Why is Oregon climbing? Put it back up, Chad. I also think, real quick, that 3-year crossover, Why did LSU just go through a coaching change and have all of those departures take place? And they're holding steady. In fact, they were 6th last year. They're 6th this year. And that to me is worrying because they were in single digits and Lane showed up and got them from outside the top 10 to inside the top 10 in a month.
Yeah, he's going to be a problem for everybody else.
Keep an eye on USC. Look, where were they? Where was USC last year, Chad? Look at 2025. You see USC?
Yeah, they're off the board.
They went from off the board to on the board. Notre Dame, from off the board to on the board.
Yep.
And then we see the climb that Oregon has made in the last couple of years. You can see the programs that are surging.
Yeah.
My concern if I'm an OU fan today is not this shit talking. I'm not even crap talking to Oklahoma fans, right? I'm only pointing out they're on the chart in 2024. They're on the chart in 2025. They're off the chart in 2026. I mean,
yeah. And also we'll have that rival discussion at some point. If you're following A&M, you got to be a little concerned at those numbers too, because they're sitting at 9. What happens if that number drops next year? They're going to fall off the board too.
The thing is, it's not Indiana has proven, and Miami, real quick, put it back up one more time. I'm sorry. When you look at last year's numbers, like Miami's on the list. I don't know that we talk about them in that fashion. Like at the end, it was like they're an older team, but they were a combination of age and actually,
talent.
They're right at the top of that next tier. And think about who they didn't have to go through on the way there. They got to avoid some of the teams that could have been problematic for them. This is where, the problem with an Indiana is that on any given day, they could run into a Georgia and get outclassed and it could show. But it didn't happen on any of these days. You can take it down now. But, if you're going to do it, I mentioned this on Twitter today about Oklahoma. And like I said, I think there's a big exploration of Oklahoma and A&M to do that I think is really interesting. Oklahoma is setting itself up as a program, I think, to be Indiana more so than Georgia, Texas, or Alabama. They're signing fewer elite prospects. I mean, it is what it is. They're not signing as many 5-stars as they did back in the day under Lincoln Riley when, hey, there's Caleb Williams. Hey, there's it just was one receiver after another. They hired a general manager whose reputation was he can find talent under rocks in places that other people won't look for, which you and I have talked about this numerous times. I always thought that would be the approach that a Texas Tech would take. Mm-hmm. I never thought that a major blue blood top 10 all-time program would say we're going to moneyball it, because there's a lot of self-awareness there that from an OU standpoint, I think is pretty healthy. You could make a case that there's a world out there where Oklahoma is full of bluster and they're trying to out Texas, and out Alabama, and out Georgia. And I don't know that they can ever do that. Right now, I don't even know they can out LSU, or, they're not, that's not even their competition right now in terms of who they're trying to compete with.
Doesn't even feel close.
It will be easier for them, I think, to try to replicate Indiana. But that's going to be really hard. What that means is right quarterback, the right group of guys at the right time. It all comes together. And then in a miracle year, you can be good enough to win a national championship. But you probably, at best, that's like a 1 out of every 4-year cycle. That may be honest. Like that might be the best route that Oklahoma has moving forward, is that you feel like Venables gives you a coaching edge. You feel like against teams with even talent, which is the majority of the teams on your schedule, you can win most of those games. You're probably not. We've seen what happens when Oklahoma gets into the playoffs, right? What happens? They run into teams that are better than them, and they don't have the dynamic in play to overcome that. Oklahoma's going to gamble, and I don't think this is the wrong gamble. This might be the right gamble, that you get a Mateer in the right year combined with the right amount of coaching and the right amount of upperclassmen together, And like you could win a championship. Indiana just showed us. There is the fact that all of the schools have come down and you don't have to hit 30 or 40 consensus super blue chips anymore because Georgia or Alabama is waiting for you or Ohio State. They will just out first round draft pick you to death. The numbers are thinner now. You know, when you're sitting at 20, that doesn't mean that all 20 are on the field. It really means like 10 to 12 are on the field. But that's still a lot of first and second round draft picks a lot of times. The other teams, the ones that are sitting at 8, 10, cut that number in half. Remember, A&M's losing 1 out of every 2 guys that shows up. So if they've got 10, the math says they're not getting contributions from half of them. So when they're taking on the elite of the elite, that 10 is, you know, there's some sliding glass doors on this thing in terms of what the real math is versus what the stated math is. Everything has to come with a little bit of okay, that's the high end top number. Oregon has that number because they're not losing many guys. The moment they get the national average from attrition amongst elite prospects, if it ever happens, they will come back to the pack unless they find a way to keep adding even more on top of, you know, they added 7 this year, but how many did they lose?
That's big.
It helps.
Yeah.
And it helps when you're Texas, when the only super blue chips that you lose are CJ Baxter and Bo Barnes. And you didn't want to lose Barnes, but you replaced Baxter with another super blue chip from the portal.
Right. And you lost, and frankly, yeah, you lost one that hadn't been one. Let's be honest.
Exactly. Right? That's the other point of this is like when you're at 20 or when you're at 19, not all of those guys are hits. But the only way that you can have Arch Manning, Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Malik Muhammad, right? Let's go down all of the standout guys. You don't get those guys unless you stack them on top of each other because they're not all Anthony Hill. They're not all Arch Manning. Look at how many quarterbacks have they. Quinn Ewers never turned out to quite be the thing. You just have to keep plugging along. And the thing that Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State were able to do is collect so many that they could make 1 million. Alabama under Saban, there's no magic to their development, Chad. They did not do what a Gary Patterson did at TCU or what a Charlie Strong did at Louisville, which was take the talent taken that he's had in front of him and then develop that talent like there's something that they're not, right? So Charlie Strong, when he was at Louisville, were taking 2- and 3-star guys, and he was developing them into NFL players at 5-star and high 4-star rates. Right. That's how Teddy Bridgewater and that Louisville team got where they got. It's an amazing job of coaching. The key to Nick Saban at the height of Alabama and at the height of Kirby Smart, for that matter, take so many badass talents that you can be literally national average in terms of development. You're not elite at development. You're the same as every other run-of-the-mill program that does it exactly at like the median rate. But if you got 5 times as many elite prospects to be average with, you just overwhelm everybody by sheer force. Yeah. And that sheer force now has been dwindled to marginal levels. And now it makes it way more likely that an Indiana can come out of nowhere. This is the new era that we're in. Ding dong, the witch is dead. There is no Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State in the sense of the last few years going back, really the last 10 years. Those 3 programs dominated the numbers in ways that no one in this sport will ever come close to doing again.
Yeah, and maybe Saban ducked out before his team got down to that 2 level that Georgia's at.
Or just
he saw it coming.
Before the gap ever closes, where he has no gap.
He could see it.
Because one more time, put it back up there real quick. Kellen DeBoer is actually doing a pretty amazing job.
Yeah,
maybe amazing is a bit strong.
I was thinking the same thing. He's at least keeping it solid. He's keeping it in the neighborhood it needs to be in.
When you look at their transfer rate, Chad, is 47.6.
Good Lord.
A&M's is 43.5. I just happen to be looking at it right now. So what's the difference? That dude's still collecting it by the bucket loads. He's got 1 out of every 2. So they are taking on water. You can see the dwindling of the numbers from 25 to 20 to 16. Yeah. But it's not because he's not adding guys. They've got to find a way to stop that transfer percentage. And real quick, let me just run through them so that everybody has an idea of what each program looks like. These are super blue chip transfer rate. Oregon, 6.7. Ohio State, 26.5. Texas, 17.2. Georgia, 27.3. That is up significantly, by the way. Yeah. If you want to know why Georgia also comes back to the pack a little bit, that transfer rate has gone up. It was half that a year ago, Chad, and now it's doubled. Alabama, 47.6 is crazy bananas.
It is.
Notre Dame, 50%.
That's surprising.
Mainly because they haven't, their numbers, it's a little, actually, that's not even right. It's 0%.
For Notre Dame?
Notre Dame's at 0%. They literally have not had a player transfer out of the program from 2020, but they only signed 1 in 2021, or excuse me, 1 in 22, 1 in 23, 3 in 24, 2 in 25, 5 in 26, none through the portal, but you add them all up and you end up with 12, but they haven't lost any. They're at literally 0%.
That's what I would have thought. I would have thought not that Notre Dame didn't get bushels of them, but when they do, I assume they keep them.
USC, 42.9%.
Wow.
They got to find a way to cut that down.
Yep, pretty big.
Tennessee's at 11, but their transfer rate is 15.4, which means, and as I keep going, LSU's 33.3, which when you consider they just had a coaching change is actually not disastrous.
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M, 43.5. And that's the thing ultimately, like Elko's got to get on top of that. That number's got to come way down, or we'll never have a real conversation about the Aggies. I don't know that they don't have enough talent to have that much turnover. And if you're wondering about A&M, they added 2 super blue chips. Brandon Arrington, it may be the best player that anybody between Texas A&M or Texas signed. He's incredible.
Yeah.
Unanimous 5-star. But he's the only one they got in high school recruiting. And then Isaiah Horton is the only guy that they got from from 24/7 and ESPN both ranked Horton as a top 32 prospect. 32 is usually the number of 5 stars that companies give out because of the first round of the draft. So just to keep it as basic as I could so that people wouldn't go, Kesh, why did you arbitrarily choose that number? I tried to mirror it after the high school stuff as much as possible. Miami, 13.3. Clemson, 8.3. Now, look, Chad, this is important. Put it back up real quick, that 3-thing graphic. 8.3 is what's keeping Clemson on the graphic. Yep, they were a halfway to 20 type team, and their numbers keep coming down, but they're not losing anybody. 8.3% is what they've lost one guy. Toriano Pride was a 2022 5-star. That's the only guy they've lost. That's why they're still on the board. Florida, 33.3. Michigan, 50%. That is an accurate number. But again, a lot of this simply has to do with the fact they haven't had a lot of guys come through the program recently. Oklahoma's transfer rate, 50%.
Good Lord.
Now, you're wondering, what does that look like? That's Taylor Tatum from the 2024 class. That's Samuel, I've never been able to say his name right. Omasigo? You know what I'm talking about, right? The linebacker?
I do.
Jackson Arnold, Jaquez Petaway, Deshaun McCullough, who was a super blue chip transfer from Indiana a couple of years ago. Caden Green, the guy that bailed for Missouri last year. Gentry Williams, who just went into the portal. Like, these are all names we've heard before. It's like those guys aren't hitting, and then what they're left with. They signed one guy in high school recruiting this year, the edge, Jake Kroll. Nobody from the portal. They signed 2 a year ago, Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foji. 1 in 2024 with David Stone. In 2023, they signed Peyton Bowen and another cat whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce. And then in 2022, they have none remaining. So they signed one that year, Gentry Williams, and he's gone. So they're just not in the game. They're not in the game. And when they do get in the game, if Oklahoma's transfer rate is half of that, they're back in the top 10. But they're not adding enough to equate for how many they're losing.
Speaking of the game, we will get into a little bit of a discussion of that. Let's thank our main sponsors, those two you see in the upper right every single day, Texas Card House and Specs. We'll start with Specs. If you need wine for Valentine's Day, they're your place.
Do you love wine? There couldn't be a better time, because the savings during Specs' huge wine sale will make your heart race. These wines will have a big discount, but you're absolutely priceless. With hundreds of wines on sale, Specs is turning these aisles into the ultimate love story.
Uncork something special during Specs' huge wine sale, going on now. Specs, the fun starts here.
Thank you all for all the chats and super chats brought to you by Specs. Also, thanks to Texas Card House for their sponsorship each and every day of the 12 o'clock show. Remember, hijackpoker.com is the online version. Get that QR code scanned, put it on any device you want, and get to playing online poker. $20 bonus when you get signed up. All you got to do is be in the great state of Texas to play hijackpoker.com. Shout out to Texas Card House.
Real quick, chat. I just saw this comment in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh damn, not a single mention. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up. Not a single mention of Indiana on blue chips, but they are winning. Jesse, listen to the show. Maybe stop engaging in the chat if you can't do the two together. We've mentioned Indiana throughout the show. There is what this entire conversation allows for is an Indiana to occur.
Yeah, it's part of what's messing with Georgia.
And it's part of what allowed for Indiana to happen. The super teams are going away. Now, everybody who's in the discussion talking about coaching and development and disciplined teams and not being sloppy. Yep.
Yeah.
Like
that's how Signetti did it.
For a long time, Texas was chasing talent, right? How are we ever going to beat these teams? They're out-talenting us. Well, that's gone. Now, they either have the talent advantage or there's no team that they'll play that will have one against them. So what does football come down to at that point if the talent is a wash? Which is not the situation that OU and A&M are in with the elite of the elite. But that's okay. They are in that conversation with 95% of the country, right? Coaching, development, the right combination of players, a little bit of luck, timing. Timing is everything. And if you don't think that's right, look and see what happens if Arch Manning doesn't win a national championship this year. It might just be they got the timing wrong. They needed Arch and this team to be rhymed and ready in 2025. Instead, it hits its mark in 2026, which is also the year where Dante Moore and Oregon might hit the mark. Or maybe Julian Sayin takes another step and Ohio State now is closer to what it was in 2024 than it was a year ago. It's hard, man. I don't think the one thing, Chad, I'll always say, I have so much respect for teams that win championships. You don't fall out of a tree and have, they're earned. They're earned. It takes luck. It takes a lot of things going for you. It takes the stars aligning. It happens so rarely that when a team or a coach does it a lot, you tip your cap because you're almost in awe at the ability to be that consistent. It's something that's so hard to do. But there's a reason why Bob Stoops did it once. Matt Brown did it once. Spent the rest of their careers chasing the thing that in their entire career they could muster up perfection one time. It is hard. And the overwhelming 90-something% of the people who try never even get to the finish line. And now Sark, red zone Sark, it feels like he's in the red zone. with this program. I don't know where inside the 20 they are. We all would probably have a different subjective what yard line they're on, but they're inside the 20. He will be defined by a coach, as a coach, not by his ability to get this program inside the red zone as a program, which is an amazing accomplishment. Chad, put that UT graphic, the rivals graphic, up one more time. Look at where Texas was when he arrived. 2021, 6. Look how quickly he was able to get those numbers to climb. It's crazy. It's crazy. It is the accomplishment of a lifetime for 99% of the college head coaches out there. They will never accomplish what Steve Sarkisian has been able to accomplish. And you know what? Same goes for Dan Lanning. What Dan Lanning's been able to get Oregon to do is historically notable. And now they only have to do the part that's going to define them. They've done all this heavy lifting. It's like climbing the second tallest mountain in the world and then being told, now you just got to climb Everest if you're ever going to count as a climber. And I don't know, man. Like, this is the really hard part when people ask questions like, you think Sark's going to win a national championship? They say it like someone getting laid. It's like, well, you won't be a virgin forever, right? And we all just kind of shrug our shoulders and go, it's true. No matter how bad a guy is with women or how uncomfortable a woman is with a guy, like at some point, they'll get laid, right? Even if just once. We talk about coaching like that and winning championships as if you just wait your turn, you'll get one.
Yeah.
Maybe. But man, we just watched Georgia and Alabama and Clemson basically dominate a decade. There are a whole bunch of coaches that were like considered close to being elite that never got there, never got close. And, you know.
I mean, again, as we're sitting here, I always go over it. It's so weird, but coaches right now, active coaches that have won a title, like go over it in your mind. Signetti is now added to the list, right? But it's Signetti, Ryan Day, Dabo, Kirby.
Yep.
Who'd I miss?
Nobody.
I think that's it, right? Because Mac used to be, he's out. Les used
Harbaugh
to be,
and
he's
Saban
out.
are out.
Harbaugh used to be, Saban used to be, they're out. I think it's 4. I think it's those 4, and that's it.
And so I don't know, man. Like there's so many layers to Texas football conversation. It's one of the reasons why there's an Orange Was Live. The further you are away from winning a championship, the easier it is to talk, like very blandly and generically, right? If you're
right. By the way, how about this chat? How about this chat from a fan? I mean, how many fans do you think like Christopher? Sark has to win a natty with Arch, and if not, it's time to fire him and move on.
Look, I said it when he recruited Arch that whatever happens with Arch Manning will be on Steve Sarkisian's tombstone, his coaching tombstone.
Right.
When Steve Sarkisian passes away 50 years from now, right? It will be Steve Sarkisian, former head coach at the University of Texas and USC, and the college head coach of Arch Manning. Like, that's going to be in the opening paragraph.
It is. Yeah, you're right.
And
that's it.
So, yeah, and the thing is, like, this is where they want you to be emphatic, right? Tell me, Catch, it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. And this is, the margins are so thin. The luck that you need. Go back to Texas in 2005. I mean, what if Cedric Griffin doesn't hit Hartsock in the end zone and Ohio State goes up by double digits and Texas just loses that game?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
what if they don't win in Columbus?
So I'm saying, right? What if they don't win that game in Columbus?
What if one of those plays? What if go back further? What if they lose to Kansas?
I mean, yes.
In the lead up, what if Mangino? What if Mangino got his call?
Well, you're talking about 2004.
I am, but I'm saying it's the lead up to what you're discussing. There's a lot of what ifs with that run. What if it had stopped along the way, right?
But Disney still had to make the throw to Tony Jeffrey, which was not a
the Jeffrey play after that. What if Steve Breston had gone Superman and beaten him in the Rose Bowl?
What if Dusty Mangum just misses?
Yeah, right. What if one Texas kicker actually didn't hit a big kick? Because that didn't seem to happen a lot in that run. The kicks went through. And that was one of them, man.
There's no wide left or wide right really in the Texas lexicon. For all of the things that haunts Texas as a program, not really a kick in there.
I don't know why someone hadn't suggested Mac Brown write a short book called What I Say to Kickers, because it should be talked about. He had some wild moments in all kinds of weather, all kinds of situations, and he said the right thing every time. Every single time.
Have I ever told you my Jeff Ward story?
I don't know.
When I was doing radio with Jeff Ward in 2006, like he and I aren't boys, but for a football season, I did 2 shows a week with him on Mondays and Saturdays. And this was back when Justin Tucker was being recruited by Texas. Ward was like friends with Tucker's family. Mm-hmm. And told Tucker's family, and if Jeff's watching, I don't mean to be spilling tea. It's been long enough. I feel like Jeff would tell the truth on this too. He has no love lost for Mac Brown that I'm aware of. He told the Tuckers, "Hey, don't let Justin come to Texas. Mac Brown does not know what he's doing with kickers."
Wow. That's great.
And all these years later, it's Mac's kickers never missed.
He dialed him up, man. I don't know who you want to give credit to. By the way, real quick, I said let's give a quick congrats here. Somebody put this in the chat earlier. Speaking of kicking, a guy that does that, a guy named Diggs, and a guy named Murphy now have Super Bowl rings. Congratulations to those 3 Longhorns that got rings last night. 2 of the 3 certainly
I was going to say, those 2 guys had like MVP shouts.
Those 2 guys certainly had an impact on the game. Murphy had a couple of massive moments, and my God, Catch, Michael Dixon went all Michael Dixon. Do you realize the Seattle Seahawks just set an all-timer? They are the first team that didn't turn the ball over in the playoffs. Did you hear that stat?
Yeah.
They are the only NFL team we can say that about. That means they're the only NFL team that literally ended every drive in the playoffs with either a kick or victory formation. They're the only one that ever did that. And Michael Dixon went 7 kicks for 48 yards on the average, and he put 3 inside the 20 catch, including the Michael Dixon classic. The one that bounced at the 10, turned to the left, and just calmly walked out of bounds at the 5, and nobody needed to be there to touch it. And I'll guarantee you somewhere Chris Boyd was watching that game nodding, going, yep, I've seen that punt before. That dude is incredible. Congrats to all those guys.
Can I give you my big hot take?
Sure.
That I'm aware of. I think that I don't remember Earl Thomas's performance in the 2014 Super Bowl, so forgive me.
God, they all had great days, but
they were great, and I'm sure he was really, really good, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, I'm sure it was decent. Yeah.
I think both Murphy and Dixon had the 2 best performances by any former Texas Longhorns player in the history of the Super Bowl. I was going to ask you, like,
certainly at the same time. I can't think of at the same time, like
not even at the same time. Like it's coincidental that it was at the same time. I don't remember another Longhorn defensive player ever having multiple sacks and a fumble recovery, and like Murphy literally.
I was going to say, I would just say like check Casey Hampton.
Exactly.
In terms of what he would have done in a Super Bowl. But yeah, it was monstrous stuff. I was really happy for Murphy that he was that big a part of one of those big moments.
Dixon, the punter.
Right. And I love me some Dixon. You know that, all the way back to the bowl game thing and all that. And people like to sort of joke about it. But now that when he gets to the end, Catch, part of the argument for, come on now, you're going to need to put him in the Hall of Fame is at least 1 ring. right? He's not going to have that. Like the Shane Leckler argument ends up including just a lot of bad football. Just a lot of teams that weren't great, weren't relevant. Was he a badass? Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's a badass. I think he may be the greatest punter that ever lived. But by the end of his career, Dixon may have an argument to surpass him, to be past Ray Guy, to be past, Leckler.
He just had a signature moment that they'll talk about if that conversation ever comes up.
Yeah, he just hit crusher after crusher in the Super Bowl. And he helped them win the damn game. The Patriots couldn't move the ball. And part of it was where he made them start over and over and over.
You'd be pissed like Michael Dixon's not a name if you're a Patriots fan you just ever want to hear again.
Whew,
Stop pitting us inside the 5, Michael.
Dude, I'm telling you.
Pretend like we have 2 minutes because we're like at 70 minutes. We need to wrap up. Rapid fire Super Bowl. Go.
Rapid fire Super Bowl go. Seattle was super impressive defensive performances. I don't know if it's all time or not, but that was one of my questions for you. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching the Patriots get beat, and I thought the visual of the halftime show was good.
I concur. I thought the Kendall Jenner ad was low-key brilliant.
I like that one. That was
good.
She
made a commercial mocking her for dating basketball players.
Yeah.
To have all of the jerseys of her former men in a pile and then to say, now I only bet on football players or something like that was just such a...
Yeah, that was a betting app angle
Yes.
I wasn't expecting. It was well done.
I was like, that's really meta. Honestly, you know what I mean? Like, wow.
Yeah,
you wouldn't guess that somebody would volunteer for that. And she weaponized the way people talk about her in a way that empowered her in that commercial. I thought it was hot, honestly. I was like, I already think Kendall Jenner's hot. But to make fun of like her persona doesn't feel like the kind of thing her sister would completely do. Like, it always feels like Kim doesn't get the joke. And I kind of was impressed that Kendall Jenner owned the joke.
It was good. Yeah, it was good. It was very good.
Seattle, boy, you got to be a proud fan base if you're a Seattle fan today. Like, you just
finally got that
handled New England.
Yeah, finally got the second one. You're a different kind of team when you win more than one. They should have already had it, but to get that second one that way, emphatically, that was impressive.
Yeah. And beyond that, like Super Bowl, I thought the Super Bowl halftime show was a freaking spectacle. And you know what I want out of my Super Bowl halftime shows? Make it a spectacle.
Well, and the thing,
don't tell me that you thought Prince singing in the rain at the Super Bowl was the greatest halftime show of all time while not acknowledging what made that the greatest show of all time. The spectacle of it all. He's on the stage. It's raining. He's singing. Like, I need some spectacle to it. And you know what? Green Day before the game, no spectacle. When it was over with, I was like, kind of a run-of-the-mill Green Day performance that I never knew I absolutely didn't need.
Well, the thing about it, for everybody that, instead of banging their head on this one halftime show, if you back up, it has turned into a spectacle over the last few years, Catch. I think that's what they're leaning into. And I would tell them to keep doing it. Every Super Bowl halftime show should make you think of a Grammy performance. That's the bar. And they've started to do that. Let's get a monster artist and have them do a Grammy type of performance, whether it's The Weeknd or whether it's Kendrick.
By the way, Shakira did the halftime show a couple years ago. Like, come on.
Well, no.
That just proves if you're a hot woman, there's a different set of rules for you than.
Yeah, and that's a perfect.
Nobody was like, whoa,
Shakira,
why would you do that? I don't even understand the language that she speaks. Well, you understand hot. That's the
right.
That's the language.
Shakira and J-Lo, spectacle, a lot of camera angles, the double knee slide. When they did Eminem, Dr. Dre, and was it Snoop Dogg? And they built that huge set that was wide, and it was like an apartment building, and there was a car outside and all that stuff. That's the spectacle they need to keep leaning into. They put like a a field out there with him, and he's walking through the field, and he turns and he looks through the field. There's a camera shooting back at him, and he looks up, and there's like all that stuff, and the dancers and the bodega and the guy selling
really well. Like
the dude selling jewelry at the little thing, and it's just give us a bunch of stuff to look at because we're getting older and we don't want to fall asleep. So well done, Super Bowl halftime.
When I was a kid, when Lionel Richie's All Night Long came out,
yeah,
and like videos on MTV really mattered.
Yeah.
A white kid growing up in Waco, he's singing All Night Long, and there's like some Spanish in the song, and like they're in the street and they're doing like some Latin dance moves in the street and stuff. Yes, at like 7 years old, I felt like this is a vibe. Like I want to be on this street, and that's what it. Last night, I was like, I want to be where they're at. That just looks like fun.
Yeah. For whatever it's worth, Catch, in my kitchen at my very small gathering, there's two white folks and a black folk, and we were all just kind of everybody was just moving. Everybody was feeling that whole beat. And it wasn't where we came from, but it was where we got to last night.
I don't care who does the Super Bowl halftime show, just entertain me. Next year, whoever it is, make it a spectacle.
Yeah. By the way,
it's the Super Bowl.
This too. How could you not enjoy Bad Bunny's dancers? Good God in heaven. Good God. Mwah. Holy smokes. That was unbelievable. And I agree with Sandman too. You do not need to speak Spanish to vibe with that, to know what was happening in that halftime show. All right, before we get out of here, I got a couple.
Be honest, the game sucked up until then.
The game did not suck. The Patriots lost. The Patriots were losing, and that does not suck.
Nope. Well, that's true. But like Seattle didn't really hit its stride until right towards the end of the second quarter. And then in the third quarter, they put the foot down. But that first half, you know what game it reminded me of was the 49ers and the Bengals in 88?
23, yeah.
I think it was the 6-3 halftime game.
Yeah, some of them take a little while to get going. You're right.
And then in the end, that fourth quarter, everybody will remember because of the touchdown that Cincinnati scores that puts them up. Yep. And then Montana and Rice and John Taylor do their thing. But that game was a little bit like that, where it was just like, okay, well, somebody make the play that we remember for all time. And then it eventually happened.
All right, before we get out of here, let me hit a couple more of our great partners, including, I got good news for you. I'm going to Taste on Main for some of this brunch. We've set up an appointment for a couple weeks. Maybe you want to go for Valentine's. I would advise, getting your reservation in now. Might be a good idea to do brunch instead of like a Valentine's night deal. Beat all the crowds, go out, maybe have brunch. They do it 10 to 3, Saturdays and Sundays. The beignets are up there in the upper left, and they're so good. Creme brulee, top center there. They got great desserts. They got the smash burger that I've shown you. And my wife and daughter and I are going to go hit it in a couple weeks at Taste on Main, downtown Buda. Then you get to walk around downtown Buda. It's a good time. Free parking, by the way, right across the road from this, all this good stuff. So go see them. Tell them you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. And what else do I need to mention? Oh, AV consultations. Look, we haven't gotten to the sick truth of it, but it might have happened. If you went to somebody's house and you saw Bad Bunny and all those hot dancers and all that cool stuff on a big old screen that you don't have, and you need that screen for Super Bowl 61, well, get after it. This is the place that can do it for you. 255-8678. Let them buy that new TV for you. Let them hook it up just right. Every cable, every speaker, everything, every piece of furniture. Let them handle all details, and you'll get that movie room you've always wanted. And then you tell that crazy bastard you were watching with this year, oh, no, you're coming to my place for Super Bowl 61, thanks to AV Consultations. avconsultations.com or 255-8678. Tell them you heard about it on OB Live as well. All righty. I think that'll wrap us up for today. There's Mr. Ketchum back in it. Thank y'all for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications. A lively Monday show. Tomorrow will be a modcast. Catch will be back on Wednesday, and we will keep rolling. Thank y'all for checking it out. Remember that QR code in the upper left? Get you to orangebloods.com. Get signed up. You will never leave the craziest message board on planet Earth and all the information you want as Texas works towards 2026. Can they now beat the Georgias of the world now that Georgia doesn't have as many of those damn super blue chips? Thank you all for checking us out today. We will be back tomorrow. Check out all the content on the